Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca was born in 1490 in Juárez de la Frontera, Spain, to Francisco de Vera and Teresa Cabeza de Vaca de Sarita, and died May 27, 1559, in Seville. Cabeza de Vaca, meaning cow's head, was said to be associated with a maternal ancestor, Martín Alhaja. Cabeza de Vaca was a Spanish explorer of the New World, which is one of the names used for the majority of Earth's western hemisphere, specifically the Americas and Oceania. His accomplishments dated back as early as 1511, when he enlisted in the Spanish army. In 1512, he served as lieutenant in the Italian city of Gaeta, married Maria Mammalea, who came from a prominent converted Jewish-turned-Catholic family that supported King Charles. Shortly after, he became a political figure in Spain after receiving several medals of honor. In 1527, he joined the Florida expedition of Conquistador Pánfilo de Narváez. It was during this expedition of La Florida, initiated by King Charles V, that approximately 150 of Narváez's men deserted the expedition and chose to stay in the island of Española. Despite the loss of the 150 men, Cabeza de Vaca continued with the expedition, taking 2 ships to Cuba in hopes of recruiting more men and to buy supplies. A hurricane resulted in the destruction of the 2 ships and death of most of the men. By February of 1528, Cabeza de Vaca and the remaining men and ships resumed the expedition and reached La Florida, or what is now present-day Florida. They anchored near what is known as the Jungle Prada site, also known as Jungle Mounds, in St. Petersburg, claiming this land as a possession of the Spanish crown. It was in 1529 that, despite advice from Cabeza de Vaca, Narváez decided to split up 300 men into 2 groups, one of which Cabeza de Vaca led on foot towards Appalachian, a city that was rumored to be full of food and gold. Once there, they found no gold, only corn. But Cabeza de Vaca and his men were told that a nearby village known as Ayut was rich. They pushed forward through swamps, harassed by Native Americans. Many of the Spanish men were killed and more wounded, arriving in Ayut only to find that it had been burned down by its invaders. However, they were able to harvest the fields and scavenge food. After several months, they decided to try and reach Panu, where Narváez had taken the second group by ship. They did this by making 5 primitive boats to get to Mexico, by gathering stirrups, spurs, horseshoes, and other metal items and melting them to make nails and tools in order to make these boats. Cabeza de Vaca commanded one of these vessels, each of which held 50 men. Again, devastation occurred because of a hurricane that swept Cabeza and his men into the Gulf. Cabeza de Vaca and about 80 survivors wrecked near Galveston Island, thus making him the first man to set foot on land that would become Texas. Galveston, Texas. Of the 80 survivors, only 15 lived past winter. The explorers called the island Maldado, or ill-fated, or the Island of Doom. Cabeza de Vaca and the remaining survivors were said to have been enslaved by various American Indian tribes of the upper Gulf Coast. After escaping, Cabeza de Vaca went on to explore what is now the U.S. state of Texas, as well as the northeastern Mexican state of Tamaulipas, Nuevo León, and Coahuila. He traveled on foot over a period of roughly 8 years. In 1536, he was the first European explorer to see and describe bison or buffalo. During his wanderings passing from tribe to tribe, he became a trader and a healer. As a healer, Cabeza de Vaca used blowing techniques to heal but claimed that God and the Christian cross led to his success. His healing of the sick gave him a reputation as a faith healer. After finally reaching the colonized land of New Spain, Cabeza de Vaca and 3 other men reached Mexico City. From there, he sailed back to Europe in 1537. The animosity against him broke out in 1543 in open revolt. He was seized and sent to Spain as a prisoner, and later died May 27, 1559.